My name is Bethany Carter. I'm 34 years old, a software engineer living in Denver, Colorado.
What I'm telling you happened 2 years ago.
It's the story of how I sued my own mother and my older sister because they almost killed Ethan, the man I love, and Tyler, our 5-year-old son.
Ethan was 32 that year, a dedicated nurse, the kind of person who checks on strangers without thinking twice.
Tyler was 5, bright, curious, obsessed with toy cars and asking why like it was his job.
Before everything happened, we had a peaceful life in Austin, Texas. I worked for a tech company. Ethan worked at a local hospital. We weren't rich, but we were safe. We were building something steady.
And still, I made the mistake so many people make. I believed blood would eventually soften.
I believed time would repair what pride had broken.
My birth family lived in St. Martinville, Louisiana, in the old house where I grew up. My mother, Linda Carter, was 60 then. My sister Brenda was 37, living with Mom along with her husband Adam, 35, and their daughter Sophia, who was 3.
I was the only one who went to college and left Louisiana.
That single decision created an unspoken rift nobody ever admitted out loud. But everybody punished me for anyway. During monthly calls, Brenda would joke with that sharp edge people use when they want to stab, but still pretend it's playful.
"Must be nice," she'd say, "leaving us behind to make city money."
And Mom, she'd sigh like she was carrying something heavy.
"Brenda stayed to take care of me," she'd murmur.
"But you always had bigger dreams."
The sentence would trail off every time.
But the meaning was always clear. You left, she stayed, so you owe us.
Looking back now, those were warning signs.
Bright red flags waving right in my face. I ignored them because I wanted Tyler to have a grandmother.
I wanted Ethan to feel included instead of like he was dating a woman with a broken past.
So that summer, I decided we'd visit Louisiana.
I told myself it would be healing.
I told myself people could change.
And that was probably the decision I regret most in my life. 5 days before the hurricane hit, we pulled up in front of the old wooden porch in St. Martinville. The air smelled like damp earth and heat. The house looked the same as it did in my childhood, only older, more tired, like it had learned how to survive by refusing to move.
Mom ran out with a bright smile, hugged Tyler, kissed his cheek.
For a moment, I felt hopeful.
Brenda and Adam stood behind her with Sophia, the little girl hiding shyly behind her mother's legs. Everything looked normal, almost sweet.
It started to change less than 2 hours after we put our suitcases down. At lunch, Tyler refused to eat the black beans. He wasn't rude, just pushed the plate away the way kids do.
Mom looked at him, then turned to Sophia with a grin, and then looked at Brenda like she was presenting evidence in court.
"Sophia's only 3, Mom said loudly, but she's so much better behaved. Look, she finished her whole plate without complaining."
Tyler's shoulders dropped.
He didn't cry. He just went quiet.
Ethan reached under the table and squeezed Tyler's knee gently, like he was telling him, "I see you. I'm here." That same day, Ethan went into the kitchen to help cook. He's a helper by nature. He can't stand to watch someone struggle alone.
While Ethan chopped vegetables, Adam leaned against the counter, smiling in a way that didn't reach his eyes. "So," Adam said, casual but sharp, "you don't know how to make gumbo?" Ethan blinked. I've never tried."
Adam chuckled. "Everyone here learns from childhood. Guess they don't teach that in the city."
Ethan didn't snap back. He just nodded.
But later, when he passed me in the hallway, I saw it, his jaw tight, his eyes glossy.
Not anger, humiliation. That night, when we were getting ready for bed, I realized Tyler had been put in the small room, the one with the old, rattling fan that sounded like it might fall out of the ceiling. Sophia got the spacious room with air conditioning.
I tried to keep my voice calm.
"Maybe Tyler could take the AC room," I suggested. "He's not used to this heat."
Mom's smile vanished instantly.
"Sophia's used to that room," she said. "She'll cry all night." Brenda didn't even look up from her phone.
Adam shrugged, like my son's comfort was a minor inconvenience.
I stood there, heat crawling up my neck, staring at the hallway that suddenly felt too narrow to breathe in. I considered getting a hotel room.
But Ethan touched my arm gently and whispered, "We're guests.
It's okay. We're only here a few days." I believed him, because I wanted to. Because hope is sometimes just denial wearing perfume. And that was only the first day. By the end of it, as I lay beside Ethan listening to the fan rattle in Tyler's room, I felt something crawling under my skin. A slow dread, not loud yet, just present, like the house itself was watching us, waiting.
I woke up the next morning to the sound of my mother's voice floating down the hallway, sweet, bright, performative.
"Sophia, baby, come here. Grandma's got something for you."
It was the kind of voice she used when the whole world was watching.
Tyler's door creaked open a second later. He padded out in his socks, hair sticking up, eyes still foggy with sleep. He stood beside me at the edge of the living room while my mother reached into a bag and pulled out a doll, tall, glossy, expensive looking. The tag was still on it. Sophia squealed and hugged it like it was the answer to a prayer. Mom laughed, delighted, like she'd just done something holy. Then she glanced at Tyler like she'd just remembered he existed. "Oh," she said, as if surprised. "I got you something, too." She handed him a small, crinkly bag of candy from the gas station. $3, maybe less. Tyler didn't complain. That was the thing. Tyler wasn't a difficult kid. He was sensitive. He was the kind of child who tried to make adults happy, even when adults didn't deserve it. He forced a smile and murmured, "Thanks, Grandma." But when he turned away, I saw it. His eyes did that flicker kids do when they're trying not to cry. Ethan crouched beside him, leaned close, and whispered something I couldn't hear. Tyler nodded, but his little fingers tightened around that candy bag so hard it sounded like it might tear. The day kept going like that. Small moments that looked harmless if you didn't want to see them. A comment here, a look there, a comparison that wasn't an accident. At breakfast, Tyler asked for cereal. Mom said we didn't keep that junk in the house. Sophia asked for pancakes, and suddenly there was flour on the counter, and my mother was humming, like she'd been waiting for the request all her life. Ethan offered to help. Mom waved him away. "Sit," she said. "You've already done enough." It sounded polite, but it landed like you don't belong in my kitchen. Around noon, Brenda dragged me out to the back porch. The Louisiana heat slapped me the second we stepped outside. The air smelled like damp wood and sunburn. Brenda leaned against the railing and watched Adam toss a ball for Sophia in the yard. Then, with a half laugh that wasn't really a laugh, she said, "So, Denver, huh? Must be nice." I didn't respond right away. I knew that tone. It was the one she used when she wanted me to feel guilty without asking for anything outright. She continued, "You make good money, tech money, city money." "Brenda," she held up a hand. "I'm just saying, you send Mom $300 a month. That's it." My stomach tightened. "We've talked about this," I said carefully. "Mom's mortgage is paid off. The bills aren't—" Brenda's eyes snapped to mine. "I live here," she said. "You don't. I'm here taking care of her from morning to night. Groceries, repairs, gas, everything. I'm the one who's stuck." Stuck. Like Mom was a prison sentence. Like I was the one who escaped. I swallowed the anger rising in my throat and tried to keep my voice low. "I've offered to increase it," I said. "I said 500. Brenda scoffed. 500 doesn't cover the reality of what you left behind." There it was. Not money. Resentment. The money was just the weapon. I looked past her toward the yard. Tyler was sitting alone on the porch steps watching Sophia run and laugh. Ethan sat beside him, quiet, one arm around his shoulders. I wanted to march inside, pack our bags, and leave. But the truth was, I kept telling myself the same thing over and over. It's only a few days. Don't blow it up. Just get through it. On the second night, the power in Tyler's small room flickered. The fan rattled harder, like it was protesting its own existence. Tyler came into our room with his blanket. "Mommy," he whispered, voice tiny. "It's loud. It's scary." Ethan sat up immediately and opened his arms. "Come here, buddy." Tyler climbed into Ethan's chest, like it was the safest place in the world. And in that moment, I felt a sharp, almost unbearable pressure behind my eyes. Because I saw it so clearly. This house didn't feel like family. It felt like a test my son didn't even know he was taking. On the third day, the escalation stopped being subtle. Tyler and Sophia fought over a toy car. It wasn't even a real fight, just kids pulling at the same object, both insisting it was theirs. Sophia's lip trembled. Brenda swooped in like a hawk and scooped her up. Sophia started crying. And my mother, reacted like the world was ending. "Oh, baby," she cooed, rocking Sophia. "It's okay. Grandma's here." Then she turned to Tyler with a sharpness that made the air feel cold. "Tyler," she snapped, "you need to let her have it. She's younger than you. Don't you know how to be nice?" Tyler froze. His hands were still on the toy. He looked at me like he was waiting for me to defend him. Ethan stepped forward gently, trying to soften the moment. "Mom," Ethan said carefully, because he still called her Mom out of respect. "Tyler's still little too. Maybe they can take turns." My mother cut him off. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. It was sharp enough to slice. "This is what happens when you raise kids city style," she said. "Here, we teach children to be considerate." Ethan's face went still, like someone had slapped him without using a hand. "And Brenda?" Brenda smiled. Not big, not obvious, just a little curl at the corner of her mouth, like she'd won something. That night, I found Ethan in the bathroom, sitting on the edge of the tub with his hands over his face. He didn't cry loudly, just shook, silent, contained, like he didn't want anyone to hear him break. I sat beside him and put my hand on his back. "I'm sorry," I whispered. Ethan didn't look up. "I feel stupid," he said, voice rough. "I keep trying. I keep smiling. And it's like, the more polite I am, the more they hate me." My chest tightened. "They don't hate you," I said automatically. But even as the words left my mouth, they felt thin. Because hate wasn't always screaming. Sometimes hate was choosing a child's room without AC. Sometimes hate was a $3 candy bag. Sometimes hate was a sentence designed to make you feel small. I swallowed hard and said, "We can leave." Ethan finally looked at me then. And his eyes, God, his eyes were tired. "Are you sure?" he asked softly. "Because I don't want to be the reason you lose your family." That sentence hit like a punch. Because what I wanted to say was, they already decided I wasn't family the moment I left. But I didn't say it. Instead, I leaned my forehead against his and whispered, "You and Tyler are my family." And I meant it. On the fourth night, the argument broke out at dinner. Tyler refused his vegetables. He pushed them around his plate, sulking. Adam looked straight at Ethan and said, cold as ice, "You're raising him spoiled." Then he nodded at Sophia like she was an award-winning specimen. "Look at our Sophia. She's 3 and will eat anything." My mother sighed dramatically. "Brenda stayed," she said, looking at me, her tone dripping implication. "She raised her child to be respectful. But Bethany—" She paused, like she was doing me a favor by not finishing. I felt my hands clench under the table. My pulse hammered in my ears. And finally, I couldn't stay silent. "Mom," I said firmly, "Brenda is your daughter, not your son. And I didn't abandon anyone. I left to work, to support Ethan and Tyler." The table went quiet. Brenda's eyes narrowed. Adam smirked, like he was enjoying the show. My mother stared at me with that wounded expression she used whenever she wanted to make me feel like a villain. And then she said quietly but with venom, "Maybe you should have stayed then." I felt something inside me shift, not break, harden. Because suddenly, I wasn't trying to fix anything anymore. I was just trying to survive the rest of the trip without my son losing a piece of himself. Early the next morning, the 5th day, I got the call from my boss. A crucial multi-million-dollar project needed me in Austin immediately. 2 days. That was all. 2 days. And then I'd come back and pick up Ethan and Tyler. I checked the weather forecast. No hurricane warnings. No red alerts. Nothing. Just heat and humidity and ordinary Louisiana skies. I told myself it was safe. I told myself Brenda wouldn't do anything truly evil. Because who does that? Who leaves a child? Before I left, I hugged Ethan tightly in the hallway where the floorboards creaked with every step. "I'll be back," I whispered. 2 days. Ethan's smile looked forced, like his face had forgotten how to make a real one. "Okay," he said, voice soft. "We'll be fine." Then I knelt in front of Tyler. He clung to my neck like he didn't want to let go. His voice was small, pleading. "Mommy, I don't like it here." My heart cracked. I kissed his forehead and whispered, "I'll be back soon, baby. Be good. Listen to Ethan. I promise." Tyler's eyes stayed on mine, wide and glossy, like he was memorizing my face. As I walked out to the taxi, I looked back one last time. Ethan stood on the porch with Tyler beside him, waving. Ethan's hand was steady. Tyler's was not. His fingers trembled. And for just a second, just a breath, I thought I saw Brenda behind the screen door, watching. Not waving. Not smiling. Just watching. Like she knew something I didn't. I didn't know that would be the last time I'd see them safe and dry before everything fell apart. The flight back to Austin felt longer than it should have. Not because of turbulence or delays, but because something inside me wouldn't settle. I kept replaying Tyler's face in my head, the way his fingers trembled when he waved goodbye, the way Ethan's smile didn't quite reach his eyes. I told myself I was projecting. I told myself I was being dramatic. I landed, went straight to the office, and buried myself in work, like discipline could drown out instinct. By mid-morning the next day, my phone buzzed. A weather alert. National Weather Service. A tropical storm has formed approximately 350 miles east and is moving toward Louisiana. My chest tightened. I called Ethan immediately. He answered on the 3rd ring. "I'm hearing about the storm," he said before I could even speak. His voice was calm, but I could hear the strain beneath it. "The local station says it's getting stronger." "Should I come back?" I asked, already half standing from my desk. There was a pause. Then Ethan said, "Your mom says not to worry. She says this house has been through many storms." That sentence made my stomach twist. "Brenda says," Ethan continued carefully, "that if things get bad, she'll take everyone to Aunt Martha's place in the Highlands." I exhaled slowly. "Okay," I said, forcing confidence into my voice. "But if anything changes, anything, you call me. I don't care what time it is." "I will," Ethan promised. 30 minutes later, my phone lit up again. This time it wasn't a warning. It was an order. Emergency evacuation issued for all of St. Martin Parish. Evacuate immediately. Police cars with loudspeakers drove through neighborhoods. Sirens wailed. The tone changed from watchful to urgent in a heartbeat. I called Ethan again. No answer. I tried again. Still nothing. At my desk, I stared at the screen like I could will it to ring back. I didn't know then, but everything that happened next would later be burned into my memory through Ethan's voice and a camera that never blinked. At 2:30 p.m., thick black clouds rolled in over my mother's house. The sky darkened so fast it looked like evening fell in minutes. Rain started as scattered drops, then thickened, pounding the roof like fists. Linda looked out the window, worry finally cracking through her confidence. "We need to leave now," she said. Ethan didn't wait. He ran upstairs and packed fast. Tyler's clothes, his medication, a few small toys Tyler couldn't sleep without. He stuffed everything into one small bag and hurried back down, Tyler glued to his side. "Mom," Ethan said urgently, "I've packed Tyler's things. Let's go." At 2:45 p.m., Ethan stepped onto the porch holding Tyler. Rain had already soaked their hair. In the driveway, Brenda was loading the SUV. The 7-seater. Ethan walked closer, heart pounding. "Let me help," he said. "We should go quickly." That's when my mother stepped outside behind him. Her voice wasn't panicked. It wasn't rushed. It was cold. "Ethan," she said, "you and Tyler stay here." Ethan turned, disbelief spreading across his face. "What?" he asked. "The car needs to carry important belongings," Linda continued. "Brenda will come back for you." Ethan stared at her. "But Mom," he said, voice shaking now, "the storm's coming. We can all go together. There are 7 seats. We're only 4 adults and 2 kids. That's when Adam appeared. Sophia was in his arms, an umbrella in his other hand. His eyes were hard. "Sophia's only 3, Adam said flatly. "She can't share a seat. She's my child. I have to prioritize her." Ethan felt the ground tilt. "I can sit on the floor," he said desperately. "I don't need a seat. Please, Tyler's 5. He's scared." Brenda slammed the trunk shut. "Stop making this stressful," she snapped. "I'll be back in an hour. You're an adult. You can handle it." Then she added, almost casually, "Sophia needs her mother." As they argued, Brenda kept loading the SUV. A television, a medium-sized safe, 3 large bags of clothes, a box of family photo albums, my mother's precious china set. Ethan stood in the rain, Tyler clinging to his leg, tears mixing with water running down his face. "Mom, please," Ethan begged. "Tyler's still so little. Let me at least go with everyone. I don't need a seat." My mother turned her back. "This house has been through many storms," she said. "It'll be fine." Tyler started crying then. Real crying. The kind that breaks your heart because it comes from a place of pure fear. "Grandma," he sobbed. "Why won't you wait for me? I'm scared. Mommy said she'd come back." At 3:15 p.m., the engine started. The SUV pulled away, and Ethan stood there, holding Tyler, watching them disappear into the rain. At that same moment, I was sitting in my office in Austin, staring at my phone. I kept calling, over and over. No answer. I told myself the signal was bad. I told myself they were already on the road. By the time I realized something was truly wrong, all flights were canceled. The storm had closed the skies. I was trapped. Powerless. That night I didn't sleep. I paced my apartment until dawn, replaying every conversation, every warning sign I ignored. I had no idea that while I waited, water was already creeping into the house. At first, it was ankle deep. Ethan lifted Tyler onto the couch. Outside, water rushed like a river, carrying branches, trash cans, even a bicycle. There was no second floor. In less than 30 minutes, the water reached their knees. That's when Ethan remembered the hammer in the storage room. He waded through dark, rising water, gripping furniture to keep his balance. The power was already out. The only light came from a dying gray sky. When he came back, Tyler was crying so hard his chest shook. "Mommy, where are you going?" Tyler cried. "I'm scared." Ethan didn't answer. He lifted Tyler onto the heavy oak dining table, the only thing solid enough not to float. He stacked a chair on top, then climbed up himself. The ceiling was low, too low. So Ethan raised the hammer and swung. Again and again. Each blow tore skin from his hands. Plaster rained down. Blood streaked his arms. He didn't stop. He couldn't. When the hole was finally big enough, he lifted Tyler through it, whispering lies he prayed would become true. "You'll be safe on the roof," he murmured. "I'll be right behind you." On the roof, rain hammered down endlessly. Ethan found an old torn tarp and pulled it over Tyler's head. They pressed themselves against the chimney. Below them, the water swallowed the house. For 12 hours, Ethan held Tyler in his arms. No food, no water, only wind, rain, and a child asking the same question over and over like it might change the answer. Why doesn't Grandma love me? By dawn, Tyler stopped shivering, stopped responding. When I finally arrived, when I finally pulled them into my arms on that roof, I didn't just see survival. I saw the aftermath of a choice my family made. And I knew even before the proof came, someone had decided my boyfriend and my son were expendable. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and fear. Tyler lay in the pediatric ICU, surrounded by wires that made him look smaller than he already was. His skin was pale, lips still faintly blue, his little chest rising and falling too slowly for my sanity. A doctor with tired eyes told me his body temperature had dropped to 33.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Another couple of hours, he said quietly, and we might not have been able to save him. I nodded like I understood, but I didn't, because my brain was still stuck on a roof, on rain, on my son asking why his grandmother didn't love him. Ethan was in the next room, 10 stitches in his hands, shock still clinging to him like a second skin. He stared at the wall, flinching every time a monitor beeped, every time footsteps passed the door. When I touched his arm, he startled so hard it felt like I'd struck him. "I'm here," I whispered over and over. "You're safe now." But safety is a fragile word after something like that. For 2 days, Tyler drifted in and out. Fever, then mild seizures. Each one ripped something out of my chest. I sat between their rooms, not knowing where I was needed more, hating myself for leaving them in the first place. I tried calling my mother. No answer. I called Brenda. Straight to voicemail. That silence felt deliberate. On the third day, while Ethan finally slept for the first time since the storm, my phone rang. Unknown number. Louisiana area code. I hesitated, then answered. "Bethany?" A woman's voice asked, shaky. "This is Mrs. Robinson. I'm your mother's neighbor." My stomach dropped. She took a breath like she was bracing herself. "I don't know if I should be calling you," she said, "but I saw something, and I can't pretend I didn't." She told me about the outdoor security camera her son had installed the year before. Cloud storage, wide angle, always on. After the storm, when she reviewed the footage, she realized it had recorded something she couldn't unsee. "I have a video," she said softly, "of what happened before they left." My hands started shaking. 10 minutes later, an email came through. A 25-minute video file. I sat alone in my apartment that night. Lights off, laptop open, Ethan asleep in the hospital bed behind me. I pressed play. The camera showed my mother's front yard. The timestamp read 2:50 p.m. Rain hadn't fully started yet. At 2:55, Brenda and Adam stood beside the SUV, about 10 meters from the porch. They thought no one could hear them. They were wrong. Adam's voice came through first, clear, sharp. "Good," he said. "Let them stay. Ethan needs to learn a lesson." Brenda laughed. "Seriously," she replied. "He's been disrespectful since day one, acting like Bethany leaving means he's above this family." Adam sneered. Did he really think marrying into this family meant he'd be spoiled? My chest felt tight. My ears rang. Brenda continued, casual and cruel. "If they get scared for a couple of hours, they'll remember. Tyler, too. Kids learn fast." Adam nodded. "Road won't be fully flooded for at least another hour. We'll come back later. 2, 3 hours tops." Then the worst part. My mother entered the frame. She'd heard them. She looked worried. She even said Tyler's name. But then, after Adam reassured her, she nodded. Slowly. "Agreed." I felt my body go cold. At 3:15 p.m., the SUV pulled away. The video ended with Ethan standing in the rain, Tyler crying in his arms. I sat there for a long time. Not crying. Not breathing. Just hollow. When I finally told Ethan, his face didn't change. "I knew," he said quietly, "the moment they drove away." That night I called a lawyer. Her name was Jennifer Martinez, one of Louisiana's top personal injury attorneys. When she watched the video, she didn't hesitate. "This wasn't negligence," she said firmly. "This was intentional endangerment." The lawsuit was filed within a week, and that's when the calls started. Relatives, family friends, people who hadn't spoken to me in years. "She's your mother. You're heartless. Blood is blood." I turned my phone off. Because while they talked, Ethan woke up screaming from nightmares. While they judged, Tyler jumped every time thunder rolled in the distance. I wasn't choosing revenge. I was choosing protection. 9 months later, we stood in a courtroom in St. Martin Parish. It was packed. When the video played, the room went silent. When the words "teach a lesson" echoed through the speakers, people gasped. A woman on the jury wiped her eyes. Expert witnesses testified. Doctors spoke. Weather officials confirmed there was time to return. Time they chose not to use. When the verdict came back, my mother was found guilty of reckless and child endangerment. Brenda and Adam, guilty on all charges. Compensation. No contact orders. Community service. As the gavel struck, I didn't feel relief. I felt empty. Justice doesn't give back lost nights. It doesn't erase terror. It just draws a line and says this was wrong. I walked out holding Ethan's hand. Tyler waited outside with his caretaker. He looked up at us, eyes still too old for his face. That's when I knew. The trial was over, but the hardest choice still hadn't come. Life didn't snap back into place after the verdict. It never does. Justice ended the noise, the gossip, the phone calls, the courtroom tension, but it didn't silence the echoes inside our house. Tyler came home thinner, quieter. He slept with a nightlight again. Thunder sent him running into Ethan's arms without thinking. He stopped asking about Grandma, but sometimes I caught him staring out the window like he was listening for something that never came. Ethan started therapy twice a week. Some nights he woke up gasping, hands clenched, eyes wild, like he was still on that roof. Other nights he didn't sleep at all, just lay there, staring at the ceiling, counting breaths like they were steps back from the edge. And me? I learned what guilt really tastes like. Not loud, not dramatic, just constant. I told myself over and over that I couldn't have known, that the storm escalated too fast, that I trusted the wrong people. But trust doesn't excuse consequence. A month after the trial, while Tyler played quietly in the yard for the first time since the hurricane, I told Ethan what I'd decided. I'm cutting contact, I said, completely. He didn't argue. He just nodded. Because we both knew some bridges don't collapse by accident. Some are burned deliberately and rebuilt only if both sides are willing to stop playing with fire. Months passed. Healing was slow, uneven, fragile. Then, almost 2 years later, my phone rang again. Another Louisiana number. This time it was a doctor. Ms. Carter, he said gently, your mother doesn't have much time. Late-stage breast cancer. It's spread. I sat in my office chair long after the call ended, staring at nothing. That night I told Ethan. He didn't interrupt, he didn't react. When I finished, he said quietly, you can go. I won't stop you. What about Tyler? I asked. Ethan hesitated. I think, he said carefully, that should be his choice. A week later, Tyler and I flew to Louisiana. The hospice room smelled faintly of disinfectant and flowers that were already dying. My mother lay in the bed, smaller than I remembered, skin thin as paper, hair completely white. When she saw Tyler, her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Tyler stood back at first, gripping my hand. Then he asked the question that stopped everyone breathing. Do you love me, he said softly, or do you only love Sophia? My mother broke. I love you, she sobbed. I was wrong. I was selfish. Tyler watched her for a long moment. Then he said something I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. You did something really bad, but I don't want you to die while I'm still mad at you. He stepped closer. I forgive you. A week later, my mother passed away in her sleep. At the funeral, Brenda approached me. She looked older, smaller, like the fight had finally left her body. Can the kids see each other? She asked. Sophia keeps asking about Tyler. I didn't answer right away. I said, I'll talk to Ethan. And I meant it, because this time I wasn't deciding alone. Today, I live with one purpose, protecting the family I chose and the child who trusted me to do better than the people who came before me. But I won't lie. There are nights, quiet ones, when I still wonder, should I let the children see each other? Should I forgive my sister after everything she did? Or is maintaining distance the only way to make sure history doesn't repeat itself? If you were in my place, what would you do? Because some days, even now, I still ask myself if I made the right choices.